Yo, what's up? It's Randy here. Another day, making this happen on the journey. One of the things that I think has been really helpful over the past few weeks and probably past few months really is kind of just like the talking. Partially to you, thank you for whoever's been watching. Who the hell are you anyway? Leave a comment, please, so I just have an idea. But just talking it out, I feel like talking an idea out and sending it out there is like this kind of mode of manifestation that is really important and I think is just so key to making it happen. Part of it from a very like practical level, in that like when you go out there and you tell people about what it is that you're doing, not only are you reinforcing what you're doing, as long as you're talking about it positively, but you're also kind of, corralling other people. You're inspiring other people to be involved or to help out in some way or to potentially hate on you, but like who gives a shit for real? I just heard, so I saw some like weird meme that popped up on social media. Not that that has any relevance whatsoever to kind of like anything, but it basically said like, if you have something that you want, don't tell anybody. And I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like there's something about speaking ideas out into the world, kind of putting it out there into the ether that really helps kind of like draw things to you. And that's what I've been doing. That's part of the impetus behind, kind of this. But I really have been super into the power of manifestation and the power of talking it out and the power of kind of putting it out there in front of people and doing it. Most of the big things that I've done in my life have been, well, first of all, by talking them out. Second of all, with the recruiting and the help of other people. I mean, like something like making a movie is extremely difficult and it requires other people to buy in. Part of everything that I've been doing in terms of finding producers, finding talent, finding money, and all these other things, just learning about the industry, is also partially kind of sussing out the team in that, like, when I speak to some people, they're just like totally closed off and, like give me nothing. And then I speak to other people, it totally like turns them on and there's like a vibe and an energy in the air. And it's like, to me, that's really important. It's really important that everybody that's involved with this project that I'm making is with that. They bring good energy, because I don't like bad energy sets. I don't like asses. I don't like people that are negative, and I think that putting that out there this entire time and continuing to put it out there is going to be kind of like one of my biggest jobs, because of my experience in the industry. It's going to, I'm kind of taking on more jobs than just one. I've been, a director primarily, and that's always what I've wanted to do. But I've also been a producer in that, like, doing this part of it is also producing, getting it off the ground, kind of like giving as much possibility as it possibly can. And kind of like really being an engine behind a project is really important. I think it's really important in general to like keep negativity away, To me, nothing really good happens from negativity. Like it doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't inspire me to like prove to that negative person that I can do it or whatever. It really just makes me kind of close down and makes my creative side less desiring to like do something. Now that's not everybody, but that's just me. And that's why for me, that's the way it works. So, that's just my thing. So another thing that I thought was really interesting this week was I listened to Robert Rodriguez on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and it was really inspiring. I mean, I really find Robert Rodriguez to be extremely inspiring. His whole, like, I made El Mariachi for $7,000 and his book, Rebel Without a Crew, is really awesome and interesting and a great mindset, I think, for these days. The more I talk to people and find out about the business and kind of like what's out there and what the film festivals are doing and all that other kind of stuff, the more I kind of feel it bounced back at me that, like, if you want something done, if you want to make your movie, you have to do it. Just do it, And the more that I kind of talk to people, of course, I want A-list talent in this movie. I want to have the best sets. I want to have money to be able to do the effects the way that I want them and all these other things. But the mindset that I continually am reverting back to these days is I'm going to fucking make this movie regardless of what I have to do. If I have to make it with a bunch of people and somebody in a bad, kind of monster outfit, I'm going to do that. And if I can make it with A-list talent and the best creature effects people out there, then I will do that too. It just really kind of is based on what I can manifest. And, I'm a pretty powerful manifester, and I'm going to stick to that. I like the way that sounds, and I'm going to buy that. If you saw the last Dave Chappelle special, he does this whole bit about manifesting. And I know Dave Chappelle's like super controversial with the trans thing and all this other stuff. I mean, he's a comedian. He's insulting. So I'm not trying to pick a side on anybody's thoughts on that front, but he does this whole bit on being a powerful manifester. And I think that stuff is really important. And that's kind of the place that I'm kind of coming from with this. And I'm hoping that knowing that I will shoot this regardless, knowing that I'm going to make this thing happen anyway, is going to give this thing the power that it's going to have to take it to the levels. And I am going to do my best to do that, partially because this is going to be more interesting, So I hope to do that for myself and also for you that are watching. And I'm going to make all that shit happen, and it's going to be great. So back to Robert Rodriguez. He has a really interesting new project called Brass Knuckle Films, which I would encourage you to check out. If you just Google Brass Knuckle Films, Robert Rodriguez, he's basically like, it's a fan investment fund that has to do with making movies and things like that. I'm not sure that that's right for my particular project right now, even though it is for action movies, which is great. Mine's definitely an action movie. I mean, action's a very interesting kind of like wide spectrum genre. I don't know exactly what he's considering action, but I mean, mine is certainly action packed. It's all action. It's not like slow moving drama. But anyway, I digress. Anybody that is interested in kind of like, applying for that or investing in that, I mean, like he's got a really interesting thing going. And Robert Rodriguez is just amazingly determined, positive, manifestation oriented. He's just like super inspirational. I mean, I dare you to watch that interview and not be inspired to just like go out and make it. And I think that that's really awesome and really interesting. And I kind of just love that. To give you an update on what I've been doing particularly, this is Island Time Trick Shots. And what I did is we meaning myself and my friend producer who is kind of attached to this project already. We haven't really discussed the clarity on the whole thing, but we've been moving forward as if kind of things have been like that. She's awesome. She's like one of the earliest producers that I ever worked with. And, she's got great energy and wants to move forward. And I like that. Let's move forward. But anyway, so part of putting the budget together is really kind of me understanding like what are all the tricky parts of this thing to shoot. There are a lot of them, which is good because I wrote things that are complicated and fun and exciting. But when you break those things down, they take a lot of work, and I can't really legitimately sign off on, hey, this is what the budget is, unless I know that these things are that she understands how we're going to be executing these things because they're tricky. One of the scenes takes place in a seaplane, and it's like, okay, cool. How do we make that happen? There's like a set, and it's either. I mean, there's only a few ways to shoot that kind of thing. You can build some kind of a set that has like a green screen or a projection in the background or something like that, or virtual projection in the background, or you can shoot it in a real plane. But you would still see outside. So the other option is actually just shooting the whole thing in an actual plane. But like you can't really do that because of sound and because of the logistics of getting cameras anywhere. So anyway, all that to say that like, these shots, it really is very interesting to kind of like do the work of directing before that's happening. I mentioned that in a previous vlog, but doing that work, I mean, like that's the work of directing, is like figuring out, thinking it through, like how is this going to be covered, what things do I actually need to see, which is going to really help because it's taking off the writer's helmet, which is like, hey, how do I write this to be the most entertaining, impactful, exciting, scary, dramatic, thrilling script it can possibly be, and into the world of, okay, how am I actually going to execute this? And then sometimes, do I really need this piece? You know, there's been one or two pieces so far where I've been like, do I need to make this piece this difficult to execute? And yeah, I don't feel like I'm copping out on that kind of stuff. I just feel like I'm trying to make sense of it, because ultimately, raising money, budget, and all that other stuff, all the logistics behind all this stuff, all that like kind of gunk that gets in the way of just like pure creative vision is going to have to be dealt with. And if I can't come up with a number for a budget because I have too many pieces that are just kind of like unnecessary set pieces, then that's it. It won't happen. So it's been super interesting and fun to do that. The next thing is, last week when I was in California, I was on a shoot and I saw one of my longtime friends, a guy named Eric Chang, who he's behind all the VR stuff at Meta. Super, super awesome, super smart, super creative. Just like he's like a very impressive character who I actually met in the drone world years ago. He used to work at DJI back in the day. But Eric's an extremely impressive character who is like always on the cutting edge, but also has the creative and the technical knowledge. He's like a unicorn in that front. And he kind of mentioned a name of a makeup effects person that he knew, which I'm not going to mention their name right now. If I happen to meet them or we can move down that road with them in some way, then I will definitely do that eventually. But I wound up like finding this book in this guy's Instagram feed, and he's mentioned in here, Masters of Makeup Effects, and it's a century of practical magic. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, as I've mentioned before, is I'm kind of been spending a lot of time thinking about the effects part of this. There's a monster in my movie and a bunch of other type of effects, and it's like how that has to be done is really interesting. And to me, it must be done well. I mentioned that last time. So looking at this book for the past couple of days has been just super interesting. And this book is really awesome because it goes through effects throughout the years. You know, like I just randomly opened this to like The Thing. And the effects from this, they're super, super interesting. And, you know, the thing about practical effects is they're creepy as hell. They don't look bad. And even CGI is good these days, but not always. So there was another piece of this that I thought was really super interesting. I bookmarked it, but the bookmark keeps falling out. Oh, it's on page 114. Oh, here it is. I love this quote. First of all, it's scary as shit, isn't it? Look at that. Ugh. If you want something to be believable, you have to match nature. I love that quote. I don't know who said that. I don't know. I'll figure it out, and I'll let you know. The reason why I think that quote's so awesome is because my film has a lot to do with nature and science and whatnot, and I just loved finding that. Just like even seeing that kind of reinforcement was totally great. So those are the kind of things that I've been doing to like kind of make this thing happen, as well as like constantly taking calls and things like that. I think we're like on the precipice here of like making some like moves forward. You know, I think that there are some things that are probably coming up that are going to be big and consequential and whatnot. You know, one of the big things right now that I'm really kind of looking for is talent. Not only like who in general, because I have a list of like kind of like dream actors, and they're all total A-listers. Like most people would look at that list and be like, there's no chance you're getting them. And there's actually a part of me that when I look at that list, I'm like, there's no chance I'm getting them, which totally flies in the face of my manifesting thing that I was talking about earlier. So I'm just going to adjust that because there's no reason why I can't aim for that. Just because that's a fear of mine, or I'm scared of people laughing at that. There's no reason why I shouldn't just still aim for it. For real. I'm just like adjusting myself here, like on the fly. So I'm just going to take note of that and like on we move. But I've been looking at cast stuff and trying to figure out how I can get to people that are going to be awesome and interesting. One of the interesting parts about my script is that one of the characters that's a really big consequential character, the main antagonist, if you will, I would only need for one day. I can't really tell you how right now or why, but I would only need for one day. So it really has a great opportunity for casting somebody that is a big deal, potentially making a cash offer to that person even early on, and using that leverage to kind of like move forward on the whole casting side. So I'm excited about that. I think that it's really a real asset of the script outside of every other part of it. It's a real interesting kind of part of how to make this script happen in a way, and a great place to start. So on that note, I would just like to say before I leave that there's a lesson that I learned years ago. I'm a snowboarder, and one of the lessons that I learned years ago was that when you're looking at what's right in front of you, when you shift your eyes down in front of you, it's really easy to like fall and to see every little bump, and all those little bumps seem really insurmountable. And what I realized in my snowboarding endeavors is that if you just merely shift your focus up and look out at the horizon or look further down the hill, all of those little bumps go away. And they just become little tiny bumps that you don't even see, that your knees just take. And I think the reason why that's really important to pay attention to right now is specifically like politically in the stock market and things like that. I think it's really easy to get worked up about every little thing that you see. But if you shift your perspective a little bit up and you look out at the future or further down the road, everything smooths out and things are much less of a big deal. I'm not saying everything, but I mean, certainly things like the stock market, recent crash, craziness, these things, life is like this all the time. And if you can really shift your perspective a little bit by just literally looking up, like out into the distance a little bit more, then all those like little bumps no longer threaten to like take you out of the game, And I just think that's really important, not only for paying attention to the news, which nobody should be doing anyway, or social media, which nobody should be doing anyway, but just life in general, and specifically all of these things. I mean, my intention with this particular film is to make this film and make it as intensely and as awesomely as I possibly can. And all the little like yeses and nos and maybes and all this other bullshit, it's like you can't hang your hat on every single one of those. You have to just know that you're moving in that direction, and that's the key. You're moving in that direction, and I'm moving in that direction. I hope you stick around with me. Leave a comment, please, just so that I can know who you are. 55 people watched my last video. That's encouraging to me, because the thought of 55 people actually just watching me ramble is awesome. But engage in the conversation in some way, please. Ask me a question. Something you want to see, something you want to know about. I'm still trying to figure out here, like what I can actually say, what I should say. Should I mention names, like all that other kind of stuff? But I think it's been getting easier and getting more fluid as everything happens. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited to take you on this journey, and I'll see you soon. Peace.